a new poll out up on Infowars.com. 1 in 10 Americans wants war with Russia over downed airliner. They must think it'll be like Iraq or some other country that doesn't have any high-tech weapons. Islamic State, ISIS, now calls itself IS the last few weeks, now got a hold of a large-scale cache of U.S. heavy arms, like large artillery, so they can shell and bomb and destroy major cities. But don't worry, your baby's diaper will be checked when you're flying. But ISIS will be armed by the globalist. Also, the MH17 cover-up. Paul Watson did an in-depth interview with Michael Savage yesterday. That interview is up on Infowars.com. Very informative. Guilt by insinuation, how America propaganda works. I want to get into that. I wouldn't call it American propaganda, though. I'd call it globalist propaganda. The same propaganda the globalists used to capture this country. And some good news. You know, I was harping on this a few weeks ago when Obama was in Austin, Texas. City refuses to pay for Obama visit. It would cost the town in Washington State $35,000. And they said, listen, let him do it. We're going bankrupt. He's opened the borders. The cities are collapsing. Hey, why didn't he go to Detroit and have them pay hundreds of thousands a day like it was in Austin? Millions of dollars total with all his visits combined. But that's not even the true cost. The true cost is shutting down large parts of cities for hours instead of flying around in a helicopter. It's just disgusting. And it's not like he's meeting with the Russian president or the British prime minister or something. It's some state dinner. So it's for pomp and circumstance, or it's a national convention. No, it's just grand entry everywhere he goes. Yeah, they're saying 100,000 per day in Austin. Was way more than that. So that's some of the news up on Infowars.com and PrisonPlanet.com. Continuing, we're going to get into the situation. Day 16 of the bombardment of Gaza. It's upwards of 600 Palestinians dead, more than 40 Israelis dead. And it goes on to report that Lufthansa, Delta, U.S. Airways extend flight bans to Israel. Jihadi cleric calls for Muslim fighters to join fight in Gaza. No, don't expect that. They're being funded by the globalists to attack other areas like Iraq. Okay, not Israel. IDF troops told to prepare for next stage of op. So that's some of the news that's coming up on that front. Up on DrudgeReport.com, there's the headline, Magazine, Putin is Russia's bare-chested Reagan. Meanwhile, Michael Moore says on CNN, you're racist if you own a gun. You're a racist white person that doesn't like black people. That's his talking point. He owns 9 homes, one of them worth more than $15 million, has 6 bodyguards full-time. I've seen them armed. They've been arrested armed in illegal areas, and he himself owns arsenals of weapons and owns defense contractor stocks. And again, nothing wrong with owning 9 homes, except you say it's wrong for anybody else to. The truth is, again, there are more billionaire liberals than there are billionaire conservatives, but most of them got their money off government contracts and insider deals. They want to pull the ladder up, like they've gotten the hot air balloon. They've got the wealth. They want to pull the ladder up so nobody else can scurry up it. And that's why they work overtime to destroy the middle class, because any economist will tell you, you get rid of the middle class, you have a permanent giant underclass, a tiny elite, and then the people never recover. Never recover.
Celebrate the spirit of freedom and liberty upon which our nation was founded at InfoWarsShop.com. Molon Lave is ancient Greek for come and take it. This popular design combines both classic Greek Spartan imagery with modern M16 assault rifles. Now available in women's tees and proudly made in the USA. Celebrate the spirit of 1776 with the George Washington brass belt buckle or this incredibly sharp-looking 1776 hat. Badass. And be sure to check out the new arrivals at InfoWars Life, where you can prepare your body to perform at peak levels with Survival Shield Nascent Iodine, Super Male Vitality, and Fluoride Shield. And wake up, America. Immune Support Blend is the healthy choice for the gourmet coffee lover. So get incredibly high-quality, freedom-based products and help fund the revolution at InfoWarsShop.com.
We're going to be, again, taking calls in the first hour, in the first part of the second hour, and the third hour today on the entire waterfront. Gun buyers scooping up AK-47 rifles after new sanctions ban their importation. ISIS tells shopkeepers mannequins must wear veils. Chinese city sealed off after bubonic plague death. We've got a whole bunch of bubonic plague cases in the United States, and it barely even makes the news because that's politically incorrect to talk about what's coming over the border. Gotta love how the White House has a big giant fence up around it. Gotta love how gotta show your ID to buy a six-pack of beer, but not to vote in this country. You gotta love how the TSA wants to grope your wife's breast and genitals and grab your rear end and inspect your baby's diaper, but the border is wide open. Big scandal up on the Washington-Canada border yesterday when a border agent of some type, the news reported, put a gun to some Boy Scouts' heads for taking photos. But the Border Patrol runs under orders when they're shot at by Mexican military and others. So we have a government that goes around picking on the little guys and people that they know aren't criminals because it's not scary to pull over a housewife and write her a half dozen tickets. Or to asset forfeiture seizure some insurance agent's car because they had $3,000 in their purse and while you took the money and had it tested and found drugs on one of the bills, knowing full well that out of 10 or 15 bills, most of them will have drugs on them. This is the supposed land of the free, home of the brave. Meanwhile, we do have the former head of the Border Patrol Union, the deputy current head of the Border Patrol Union, the former deputy head of the Border Patrol itself, and countless other senior agents who follow a constitutional duty. In the last 6 or 7 years, they've been directed to run checkpoints deep inside the United States that are unconstitutional. I've gotten a lot of heat for it, including from this talk show host. But they are under attack, being ordered to stand down the last 4 months on record to permanently break the border and the national sovereignty of this country. And over 100 million green cards are in the new Senate bill that their bipartisan system is trying to pass that would bring in the populations of 3 major Latin American countries: Guatemala, Nicaragua, and El Salvador. This is an epic level globalist plan to crush the United States. How could the United States fall? Bring in 100 million, not 30 million, but 100 million in the next 4 or 5 years. 30 million a year, ladies and gentlemen, or more. 25 to 40 million, depending on how you look at the numbers, pouring in, fully collapsing everything. And the controlled media will say, no one knew how it happened. Even if Obama gets in trouble, he'll just give himself a pardon in 2 years. And the Republican leadership is still playing dumb, other than Rand Paul, Ted Cruz, Ron Paul, Louis Gohmert, Walter Jones. There's a few others. Sarah Palin, to her credit, says this is deliberate. And none of these people are perfect. I'm not perfect, but this is make it or break it time. Gaza, Israel goes in there every 2 years. It's a tragedy. It's tribal warfare. Take a side at your peril. The Russia situation is a super aggressive Western move to destabilize the entire region. And I would be for it if it was the Soviet Union we were fighting, bringing freedom to Ukraine and other areas, liberating Eastern Germany, liberating Poland. That is not what's happening. George Soros admits he's behind it with the State Department. Just type in, George Soros says he's behind Ukraine. He told the New York Times that. He bragged last month. And they're trying to bring Heather has two mommies, daddy's boyfriend, turn in your guns, men are bad, socialism is good, forced inoculation is good, be looted by the IMF and World Bank and be debt slaves. It's the globalists that are the big infection. They are what is racing through the body politic. And Ukraine is the big enchilada. But the next shoe to drop is the Pacific pivot, the Asian pivot, with China saying they may invade and take islands, not just of Japan, that are disputed off the coast of Hong Kong and Taiwan. There's a whole bunch of them that they're disputing, but major islands that the Japanese took from them during World War II or in the lead up to World War II that are now part of the Philippines. And they've said a few months ago they will nuke anyone that gets in the way of when they decide to take those islands. And folks, China has already been taking land from Vietnam and has already had military skirmishes with them. So you need to understand, this is serious. And our politicians are busy trying to militarize every law enforcement agency out there into paramilitaries to take on, in order of importance to them, returning veterans, gun owners, libertarians, constitutionalists, conservatives, land rights activists. And then they have a token go after the left. Traditional leftist system is to go after GMO and things, which I actually agree with. I don't agree with burning down their facilities. I agree with burning down their lies in the info war and exposing that. I'd be all for GMO if they knew what they were doing, or if they weren't engaged in piggybacking or Trojan horsing traits into the food that reduce fertility and increase cancer on record. By the way, they still have mainstream news articles in the last few weeks saying Alex Jones is nuts, tinfoil hat. He believes the NSA is spying on everything. It's on record that everything is scooped up illegally and dumped into giant vats. Major corporations get it and share it. The governments get it and share it. And it makes our country unsafe, not safe, and gives strategic elites access to the data that everyone else doesn't get. So it allows them to corner markets, consolidate markets, knock out their competition, destroying diversity of the marketplace, stagnating society. Do I need to go on here about what we're dealing with? Do I? So we'll open the phones up for this question. What do you think the most important issue is? The monetary crisis that has been designed to implode world currencies and bring in world government? Is the collapse itself the big story, or how they engineered it? Or do those just go together? Is it the buildup by Western governments for nuclear war and preparations for it, and news articles saying nuclear war is survivable and selling it like it might be the new fun adventure park to visit? Is it nuclear war? Is it the Crimea? Is it Israel? Is it ISIS being turned loose, and IS, as they call themselves, from Africa to Central Asia to destabilize the world? Is it the wide open border and the collapse of the United States? Currently, in our face, the shoe that's dropped, the balloon that's gone up, the train that left the station, I would say is the open border, because this has now been triggered. It's not hundreds of thousands a month, folks. It's 300, 400,000 a month is my estimates and my Border Patrol estimates and my ICE estimates. It's around 100,000 kids a month, but we're talking another 100, 200,000 adults. At one Border Patrol station 4 months ago, before they were ordered to stand down in Texas, they were grabbing upwards of 50,000 a month. That was in the news. 300 and something thousand in the year before. Do you understand that? Do you understand that? And there's at least 100,000 illegal immigrant gang members now in the state of Texas alone, according to the DPS intelligence, which I concur with those numbers. So, listen, all I know is some cop pulls me over, runs my license, and wants to search my vehicle. I'm going to give him a dressing down. I'm going to say, listen, I know you've been told to do this, but you need to be out there worried about our collapsing border. You know I don't have any record, and do I look like I'm on drugs? Leave me alone and stop trying to violate my Fourth Amendment. Well, what's your problem, buddy? My problem is our country's burning down, and the TSA is checking people's diapers. I don't care if it's an 80-year-old man with a colostomy bag who's having colon surgery. I don't care if it's a 1-year-old baby. I'm fed up, and I'm done. This is the end of the country.
Now you can watch the InfoWars Nightly News streaming live as it happens for free.
Check it out at Infowars.com/show.
Oh, the humiliation. Secretary of State John Kerry had to go through a metal detector screening before meeting with the Egyptian president. They didn't trust him. Well, I know why the Egyptian president didn't trust him, who's backed by the military junta. It's because Kerry double-crossed them 4 years ago and basically had the 31-year U.S. ally and stabilizer in the region, Hosni Mubarak, overthrown. They put the Muslim Brotherhood in, who then brought al-Qaeda in, and they began blowing up military bases and shooting down helicopters and crucifying Christians at the presidential mansion. This was on the foreign news. Christians upside down burning. 100-plus churches blown up in one day, until 20 million Christians and Muslims hit the streets, many times bigger than the Muslim Brotherhood had done a year before, and they overthrew the Islamic State government and put the military in. And so now they won't be in a room with Kerry, and I understand why. Just like they overthrew Libya and put al-Qaeda in. Just like they're trying to overthrow Syria to put al-Qaeda in. Just like they tried to overthrow Iraq to put al-Qaeda in. And they've now basically done it within the new Islamic State area that we predicted would be part of Syria, part of Iraq. That was always the plan, to break the country up. And again, I bring that up because our government won't bomb ISIS when they're on big convoys that can be taken out. Of course they would never bomb them, and said, well, it's Maliki's fault as prime minister. He hasn't been nice enough to the jihadis. And then some of the neocons go, well, we're just having all the Arabs kill each other. Like that's some type of moral policy. Yeah, even if you wanted the Arabs to all kill themselves, neocons and neo-libs, we know what it's really about. It's about creating a new super Islamic threat that can menace the West to keep the defense contractors in high cotton while we go bankrupt, but more importantly, menace the United States so that we can have our liberties taken in the name of being safe. We're being held hostage. The globalists are holding the gun, and the gun is ISIS, IS, al-Qaeda, Wahhabist, Saudi Arabian scum. And I'm not saying Saudi Arabians are scum. I'm saying ISIS, al-Qaeda are scum. And you've seen their activities. You've seen their behavior. If that's not scum, I don't know what is. Remember how Secretary of Defense Panetta and others, even in briefings with officers, make them remove their sidearms and have security thrown out of the room? And won't give speeches to even uncommissioned officers in Iraq and Afghanistan? Because they're scared of them, because they know that the military, by and large, knows who the enemy is. And I think it's actually legitimate that the political elite will not get around our soldiers' arm now. You know, Saddam Hussein would walk around with 10,000 troops around him and the general public with AK-47s in the air. Not saying he's a good guy, just pointing out that Iraqis had more of a Second Amendment than we do under Saddam Hussein, an older CIA asset. who was then flushed down the toilet after being set up, just so everybody knows. We then see the new system coming into view where the only people that are allowed to be armed is Al-Qaeda with heat-seeking missiles and artillery, which they now got from U.S. military bases and weapons caches that were just left there and that they were allowed to capture. ISIS was allowed to overrun Iraqi military bases built and maintained by the U.S. and contractors. They were ordered to stand down and give them the weapons, and the story is up on Infowars.com. I want to go to break and come back in the next segment and get your take on all this. The toll-free number is 800-259-9231, and you hear how good the callers are when I say first-time caller. We're doing first-time callers in this hour, free-for-all in the next hour. To quote Ted Nugent, it's a free-for-all. 800-259-9231. I got me a rock and roll band. It's a free-for-all. I got me a radio network. It's a free-for-all. Promoting freedom, unapologetically, thumbing our face in the tyrant's face, thumbing our nose right there, letting them know we're aware of their scam, calling the fraud, blowing the whole fake paradigm to hell. Alex Jones here for Infowars.com. We're going to be intensifying our efforts to awaken free humanity to the scourge of the globalist in the month of July. And starting this July 4th, we are going to slash prices in a celebration of true Americana, the Bill of Rights, the Constitution, and the Declaration of Independence on all of the Made in America products that you will find at madein1776.com or InfoWarsStore.com. We're talking about Made in America belt buckles in brass and nickeled brass that state it loud and proud. Molon Labe. That's why we have the best-selling Made in America men's and women's Molon Labe Infowars.com shirts. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a win-win. You vote with your dollars. You support the most hardcore organization out there for promoting true ideas of libertarianism, constitutionalism, basic human empowerment. But more importantly, you get T-shirts and belt buckles so you can meet like-minded people. So you have a conversation starter with friends and family and coworkers. We are reaching out to each other. And you also throw it in the face of the anti-gunners and the rest of the parasites out there that you're a free man and woman and that you're not going to be a slave, that you're not going to be intimidated to shut up by their tyranny that they call political correctness. That's why in the month of July, we have got giant specials on everything at madein1776.com. But to expand the InfoWar, we're offering the biggest special in the history, 13 years of PrisonPlanet.tv, our multimedia platform. We're offering the equivalent of more than 5 months free right now when you get a membership at PrisonPlanet.tv, and you get 11 memberships that can be used with the same username and passcode so you can share it with friends and family. Now is the time to fund the war bonds. Now is the time to fund the InfoWar. Now is the time to get aggressive. Now is the time to double down. Now is the time to realize you are the people that made the InfoWar so successful and one of the leading lights worldwide against tyranny. You don't stand behind us, you stand right beside us, and I salute all of you on this July 4th, 2014, and going forward in the month of July and onward. This is about freedom worldwide and that desire for human dignity and self-determination that beats in the human breast. We are brothers and sisters together in the true spirit of liberty and the animating contest of liberty. And so I quote in closing the great Thomas Jefferson that I have sworn on the altar of God resistance against every form of tyranny. And never forget, if you are watching or listening to this transmission, you are the resistance.